Greetings all! I am Anime Otaku Drew, and something occurred to me recently. For someone called Anime Otaku Drew, here's one thing that is conspicuously absent from my channel. Any content at all related to anime. Of course, I initially chose the moniker Anime Otaku Drew not because of my intention to cover a lot of anime related subjects, but rather because I'm a fan or otaku of anime who happens to be named Drew. But that absence of anime related content ends today. You see, I have put all the pieces together and I figured out how the penultimate arc of one of my favorite currently running manga and anime series, One Piece, is going to play out. And I'm going to share it with you now. But before I do that, I feel compelled to point out that this video will contain spoilers for One Piece up to and including manga chapter 1044. So, for anyone who only watches the anime, which is significantly behind that point, or that has not read up to chapter 1044, please add this video to your watch later list and go catch up on the manga. It's absolutely worth your time because it's awesome. Then come back here and finish watching this video to hear my predictions for the rest of the series. And yes, chapters up to 1053 are out now, but as awesome as those chapters are, they don't contain any developments that add to or disprove my theory, so there's no reason for me to go on and spoil them. Thus, the spoilers will be limited up to 1044. Now I'm going to give those people who wish to avoid the spoilers a few seconds to click away before I continue. Alright, now that it's just those of us who are caught up with the manga, along with those who just don't give a damn about spoilers, it's time to explain exactly what is going to happen in the second to last arc of One Piece, along with the thought process that led me to this conclusion. So I feel like I should walk through all of this from the beginning before I dive in and just explain what I believe is going to happen in the story. You see, it all started a few chapters before 1044, when the Gorosei, that's the 5 elders of the world government, for anyone unfamiliar with the Japanese terminology, when they revealed that the name of a certain devil fruit had been changed by the world government in an effort to hide the significance of it. In the following chapters, we got a revelation from Zunesha that Luffy is apparently the legendary character Joy Boy, who we are pretty sure was alive and active 800 years ago during the Void Century. Now, it seems that most of the One Piece fandom is interpreting this to mean that Luffy is the reincarnation of Joy Boy, but I'll get more into that later. Furthermore, most fans, myself included, were under the impression that Joy Boy was also the sun god Mika, who we've been getting little snippets of information about for these last several chapters leading up to 1044. However, chapter 1044 showed that Joy Boy and Mika are actually not the same person, with the revelation that Luffy's devil fruit, which we have known as the Gomu Gomu no Mi, since the very first chapter of this series, is actually the mythical Zoan-type devil fruit, the Hito Hito no Mi Model Nika, which allows its user to take on the properties and abilities exhibited by the sun god, and with the fruit now being awakened, seems to allow Luffy to fully take on the form and, to a degree, the personality of Nika. Now, I guess it's still theoretically possible that Nika is another name Joy Boy was known by, and that this is basically the Joy Boy fruit, but that really does not seem a very likely possibility now, and it's got nothing to do with what I'm getting into here, so I'm just not going to delve any further into that. What I am here to talk about is the idea that Luffy is Joy Boy. When Luffy came to after being defeated by Kaido in chapter 1043, Zunisha proclaimed that it was Joy Boy. And we know from previous chapters that Zunisha was alive during the Void Century and was actually friends with Joy Boy, which is how Zunisha was able to recognize the presence of Joy Boy's mind. Now, as I previously mentioned, it seems that the majority of the fandom has taken that to mean that Luffy is the reincarnation of Joy Boy. But this idea comes with one major stumbling block for me. If Luffy truly was Joy Boy reincarnated, that would mean he always had been the reincarnation of Joy Boy. And if that's the case, then why did Zunisha not recognize his mind during the Zou arc? The answer to that now seems to be because the awakening of the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika, which has clearly changed something about the sense of his mind in a way that made it feel the same as Joy Boy's to Zunisha. Now the common interpretation of this among the fandom is presently that it's because Joy Boy must also have been an awakened user of the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika. And the mind that Zunisha is recognizing is not that of either Joy Boy or Luffy, but rather the mind of Nika as imparted by the awakened Devil Fruit. Though the idea of Luffy being the reincarnation of Joy Boy is still floating around out there, with a solid backing. Well, I'm here to tell you that, yes, Luffy and Joy Boy are indeed both awakened users of the same Devil Fruit, though that isn't why Zunisha suddenly recognizes Luffy's mind as Joy Boy's. Or, well, not entirely. It's because Luffy is indeed Joy Boy. But reincarnation has nothing to do with it at all. Allow me to clarify. It's not so much that Luffy is Joy Boy, but rather that he will be Joy Boy. Very clear distinction there. You see, one of the largest complaints I've heard about the idea of Luffy being the reincarnation of Joy Boy is that it nullifies the impact of the entire concept of inherited will. I actually kind of understand that point of view. If one can simply return to complete their own unfulfilled will, then what is even the point of passing that will on to others? The thing is that Oda-sensei is too good of a storyteller to make that significant of a mistake, which means clearly he has something in mind that does not entail nullifying any of the major themes of the series. Furthermore, as a writer myself, my mind automatically set out to figure out what path Oda could send the story along that would not result in such contradictions. And I finally figured it out. This revelation has given me a very strong idea of how the series ends, particularly the last two arcs, and especially the second to last arc. how it's all going to play out. Now, I think the easiest way to explain it is by example. So please bear with me while I briefly turn to another franchise that perfectly illustrates what I think awaits us in the penultimate arc of One Piece. That franchise being The Evil Dead. And yes, spoiler warning for anyone interested who has never seen those movies. For those unfamiliar with the films, just a brief rundown. The Evil Dead tells the story of a group of friends who go to spend the weekend at an old cabin in the woods. The group soon finds this ancient tome hidden in the cabin and learn that it's a powerful book called the Necronomicon, which the cabin's last resident was studying. When they play a recording of the researcher reading from the book, evil spirits are released and most of the group are killed. In Evil Dead 2, the sole survivor is Ash, played by Bruce Campbell, who ends up working with the daughter of that researcher to try and stop this evil force. At one point during Evil Dead 2, Ash and the researcher's daughter are looking through the text and come across this illustration depicting a figure with something on one of his arms standing in front of this gathered crowd of people in what looks like medieval attire. Not thinking much of it at the time, I think Ash might get a chill down his spine or something like that, but they go on, ultimately find something that should stop this evil force, and they set it into action. Now, over the course of the story, Ash had lost a hand, which he ends up putting a chainsaw on the stump that he uses to fight these deadites. And then during the final confrontation, when they enact their final plan, it seems to be working, but it unexpectedly opens up this huge vortex that not only sucks in the evil, but it also sucks in Ash. And he finds himself just falling out of the sky in some unfamiliar place. After he crashes to the ground, he kind of dusts himself off, looks around, only to see a deadite flying at him. Well, he pulls out his shotgun and blasts it, and after he does so, when the coast is clear, all these people come out of hiding and start gathering around him in awe and like reverence for the person who delivered for them from this evil. People in medieval clothing. As I'm sure you can guess, it ends up that Ash himself was the very figure that they saw earlier in the book. In the third film, Army of Darkness, Ash has to deal with the Deadites in the medieval period and find some way to get home to his own time. It has some changes at the very beginning of Army of Darkness compared to how Evil Dead 2 ended, but it more or less continues the same story. Now, after that summary of the Evil Dead franchise, I suspect that you know where I'm going with this. Here is how I believe the events will unfold in One Piece. The Straw Hats are going to reach Laugh Tale. Of course, they have to. I suspect that this will be after the big final confrontation with Blackbeard and all that. Luffy has defeated Blackbeard, and they make it to Laugh Tale. And they discover the One Piece. At which point, something is going to happen. And I have some thoughts on that, which I'll address later after this general rundown. But something is going to happen that's going to transport Luffy back to the past. But not to play shitty games that suck ass. Instead, it's going to be to the Void Century. What ensues will be another solo Luffy arc, rather similar to the events after the crew was separated at Shibondi Archipelago. When Luffy met Boa Hancock, ended up going to Impel Down and then Marineford to try and save Ace, all of that. This is going to be kind of like that, where Luffy is separated from his Nakama. And he's going to learn that he will ultimately figure out that he is in the Void Century, and he'll have some memory of Robin mentioning it. Oh, hey, there's this period of history. Hey, wait a minute, I think I'm there. What the hell? Something like that, I don't know. But he's going to end up finding these traveling companions. I suspect at least one of them will be someone that actually sees him appear. He'll get this group of traveling companions as he travels through the world of the Void Century. His primary concern is going to be finding a way back to his friends, his crew, his Nakama. But I think that at least one of the people he's traveling with is going to be intent on showing him the evils that are happening in the time. The shady goings-on that lead to the establishment of the world government and it taking power with Eam as their hidden leader. In fact, I actually think that Eam, or rather the person who will become Eam, will be one of the people that travels with Luffy. Someone that Luffy will befriend. And I actually think this is why Oda Sensei has not revealed Eam's face. We will not see Eam's face before Luffy ends up in the Void Century. And the reason for that is so the reader will not immediately recognize them. Then we'll get that sense of betrayal when at the end of the Void Century arc, this person betrays Luffy and helps the group that becomes the world government, seizes the power of immortality and all this. So at that point is when this person will become Eam, after betraying Luffy. And Oda Sensei does not want us to recognize them immediately once we're in the past with Luffy. So can't give that one away just yet. Now, at some point after learning the truth of what's going on, but without being able to stop it, Luffy will be returned to the present, and he is going to he's going to have the apology letter Poneglyph made that we saw on Fishman Island to apologize that he wasn't able to help them then. And just everything that Joy Boy is known for, Luffy is going to do. And I suspect that at least two of the characters Luffy is traveling with in the Void Century will be familiar. Obviously, there has to be Zunesha because Zunesha knew Joy Boy. So, Luffy will be traveling with Zunesha, the future Eam, and probably at least one or two other characters. I mean, think of Impel Down and Marineford. Luffy was on his own, but encountered other characters that joined him and helped him along the way. This is going to be like that again. So, as Joy Boy, Luffy is going to do all of the things Joy Boy is known for before he returns to his own time. And he is going to be pissed by the betrayal of the person that becomes Eam. It's going to be personal to him at this point, because this person screwed Luffy over badly. Made him believe they were a friend, got close, knew his secrets, and then stabbed him in the back. So after that, knowing the truth, when he returns to his own time, that is going to make him personally invested in bringing down Eam and the world government. And that's going to set off the final arc in which the Straw Hats gather their allies and anyone that is like-minded and go for final confrontation with the world government, with Eam being Luffy's big final battle. Now, I'm sure your first question is, but Drew, how would Luffy end up in the Void Century? That's easy. There's a few ways. First, the One Piece itself. At this point, we don't know yet what the One Piece is, how it works, what it's capable of. We know jack shit about the One Piece. We have exactly one piece of information about the One Piece. It exists. So, what we know is that Goldie Roger reached Laugh Tale and found the One Piece, but it was also revealed that he was too early. Damn. This tells us that there is some aspect of the One Piece that is time sensitive. Perhaps the One Piece itself can only be activated or will activate on its own at a certain time. Perhaps there will be a certain person present at Laugh Tale who will be integral to the use of the One Piece, but they'll only be there at a specific time. Who knows at this point? What we do know for now is that time travel is possible in One Piece. The revelation of Lady Toki's Devil Fruit, the Toki Toki no Mi, was no accident. It was specifically orchestrated to show us that time travel is real in the series. And yes, we have been told that Lady Toki was only able to travel forward in time. But there are two possible ways to reconcile that fact with what I believe is going to happen. First is that whatever will transport Luffy to the Void Century will be something other than the Toki Toki no Mi. Possibly the One Piece itself, maybe some strange phenomenon, natural phenomenon, man-made phenomenon. Perhaps Frankie builds a time machine, or Vegapunk creates an artificial devil fruit that is able to send people back in time. Who knows? The second possibility is that it actually will be Lady Toki. And yeah, I know, I already hear the cry, she's dead though! Okay, yeah, maybe. But seriously, look at Death's track record in One Piece. Death is kind of losing. You see, it's entirely possible that Toki's fruit, in its regular state, does only allow forward travel in time. But what if she awakened the fruit, and it allows travel both directions? Think about this. Just as Luffy's own Devil Fruit awakened when he died in the battle with Kaido, maybe Toki's fruit only awakened when she died on the night she made her prediction. In fact, it could be that a near-death experience is how a Devil Fruit awakens. Interesting idea. But a topic for another time. Anyways, the awakening of the Toki Toki no Mi might allow for travel backwards in time as well as forwards, meaning that after her death, Toki could have fled to another time to recover, then later go on to Laugh Tale to be there at the right time for Joy Boy's or Luffy's arrival. It's even possible that she's the one who took the missing pages of Oden's logbook, so she would have the information on how to reach Laugh Tale and when she would have to be there. Because clearly they found something at Laugh Tale that told them when the key events surrounding the One Piece would happen. So they know when it's going to happen. And the missing pages of Oden's logbook are implied to have that information as well as the actual location of Laugh Tale. Meaning that Toki, if she did take those pages, could travel to the right time and place to be waiting for these events to happen. This idea also fits with the thought of Luffy going back in time, as if he is taken to the past by Toki, he would have someone from that era who would be able to help prevent him from stepping on any proverbial butterflies and stop him from giving away things about the future that he shouldn't. Could even be that the reason he gets returned to the present without fixing things in the past is because Toki will actually die while they're in the Void Century and uses the last of her strength to send him home to his own time. Wait a minute. But if her goal is to change her present in the Void Century, the idea of trying to stop Luffy from causing a butterfly effect is kind of unnecessary. In fact, counterintuitive. Stopping Luffy from changing anything just means leaving shit the way it happened in the first place. If she wants to change it, maybe she realizes Luffy is Joy Boy and takes him back to fulfill all of that. Who knows? But it seems a very real possibility. And Toki would also be able to act as his guide to the Void Century, as she is from there and has information, knows about the world, the political climate, or I guess various political climates, knows about everything that's going on, knows the key players and all that. I hear you. Wait a minute, Drew. Doesn't that still mess with the idea of inherited will? No, not at all. Think about it. Whose will did Luffy inherit? Was it Shanks? No. I would argue that no, it wasn't Shanks' will. Shanks is definitely the one who inspired him to become a pirate. That's absolutely true. But I argue that Luffy inherited Roger's will, and I would say that it's Roger's will that Shanks recognized in Luffy, which caused Shanks to give Luffy the straw hat. So the passing on of the straw hat, of Goldie Roger's straw hat, is a physical representation of Roger's will being passed to Luffy. What other cases do we have of inherited will? Kuina? Hiruluk? Whitebeard? Ace? Odin? Some might even argue that Carrot inherited Pedro's will to ensure the coming of the new dawn. Now, what do all of those cases have in common? Well, in order for a person's will to be inherited by someone else, that person clearly has to die without fulfilling it. Death may have a lousy track record in One Piece, considering how most characters who die end up not being dead at all. But every time we have a confirmed death in the series, it has been accompanied by a case of inherited will. In other words, the series differentiates between inherited will and inspiration. Shanks inspired Luffy, and Luffy inherited Roger's will. Think about it. In order for something to be inherited, the previous owner has to die. Whether that something is a family home, a prized heirloom, or, in this case, that person's will. The living, however, can inspire others to take action. That's what I think we'll see here. While he's in the Void Century, Luffy is going to inspire someone, probably another one of his traveling companions, who will then take action themselves once he leaves. Luffy won't actually be dying, so his will won't really be inherited by this person, as he takes his will with him back to his own time. And he will go on to fulfill that will. Instead, this person who is inspired by Luffy will end up the originator of the inherited will, and most likely of the D tribe itself, which is going to prevent Luffy from inheriting his own will. That plays out. That works without ruining the concept of inherited will. Now, it does get into the question of, it comes down to kind of chicken and egg thing, which I actually like it being kind of cyclic. The inherited will starts with this guy, and it passed down through the generations all the way to Roger and then to Luffy, and then it ends up being Luffy who inspired that in the first place. So I love the cyclic nature of it. That, I think, works quite well, and it does not ruin inherited will. As for who that person is, like I said, I think they'll probably be the one who founds the D tribe, that the D tribe issues forth from. Who knows? Maybe it's Bake. Luffy will bring him his sake. Who knows? Anyways, this time in the past is also going to be important for Luffy's motivations going into the final arc of the series. Some people might try to argue with me. Feel free to do so if you choose. But we have seen consistently throughout the series thus far that Luffy doesn't really care about things in general. Now, don't take that to mean that he's not a good person. He absolutely is. He just doesn't think of himself that way. He's not a crusader out to right the wrongs of the world. He doesn't think about those wrongs at all. Just what he himself wants. He wants to become Pirate King. He wants meat. That's pretty much, and he thinks about his friends and the people he cares about. That's pretty much the makeup of Luffy's mind right there. Pirate King, Nakama, meat. So yeah, that's Luffy in a nutshell. At nowhere in that equation will you find evils of the world, fixing what is wrong. Yeah, no, that does not figure in at all. However, once Luffy is made aware of some evil, once it's brought to his attention and is affecting someone he cares about, he cannot let it stand. I mean, that is pretty much every arc of the series right there. Damn near. All the way back to when he met Zoro, when he met Sanji, when he met Usopp, Arlong Park, all of it, everything. Some evil that is being done is brought to his attention. It's affecting someone he cares about, so he cannot let it slide. So once he has gone back to the Void Century and seen firsthand what the world government and Im did in the past, and he himself has been betrayed by Im, Luffy will make it his personal mission to end them. That means upon returning to the present, the final arc will have Luffy set out to gather all of his allies, and maybe, just maybe, the ancient weapons, before going to have a big final confrontation with the world government and Im. Probably somehow using the One Piece itself to defeat them. Because the series is One Piece, so the One Piece has to be relevant still, especially in that final arc. And it's no longer about the search, so it will have to be about the use of. After that, the only thing left, I suspect, will be a few chapters of epilogue to let us know what the Straw Hats go on to do after the main story of the series, what becomes of the world after that, things like that. Just wrap up. All the talk about Blackbeard being Luffy's last major opponent is missing the mark by 2 full arcs. He absolutely will have a major battle with Blackbeard, probably just before reaching Laugh Tale and being taken or sent to the Void Century, like I said before, but his true final battle will be with Im. So, there you have it. My predictions for the last 2 arcs of One Piece. You think I'm onto something? You think I'm crazy? Have a theory of your own about how the series will conclude? Share your thoughts down in the comment. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Reactions to my theory, your own theories. Just tell me I'm a damn fool. Whatever you got to say. There's room for all of it down there. Aside from that, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like to let me know. If you want to see more content like this, not just for One Piece, but for Star Wars and all sorts of other awesome franchises, then make sure to slap the red off of that subscribe button and ring my bell so you get notified whenever I upload new videos. I may not have a regular upload schedule, but that also means that I'm not going to be churning out a bunch of crap just for the sake of putting up content. Whenever I upload something, you can be sure it's something that I put a lot of thought into and I'm really excited about, like this theory. Either way, I want to thank you for hanging out with me to talk about One Piece. I hope to see you in the comments and that you'll join me again for the next video. Catch y'all later.